Hello and welcome back to the Divided We Fall podcast. I'm your host, Jake Stratton.
And I'm Greg Beatty.
And today we're talking about a very special person in our Pennsylvania society here in Pennsylvania, Rachel Levin.
So, Dr. Rachel Levin is the current Secretary of Health for Pennsylvania. She has just been appointed by the Biden administration to be the Assistant Secretary for Health on the United States federal level. A quick background of who she is besides just the current Secretary of Health for Pennsylvania. This is the official statement given by the Biden administration after her pick. She is the current Secretary of Health for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and a professor of pediatrics and psychiatry at the Penn State College of Medicine. She also the post also goes on to talk about different titles that she holds, all related to pediatrics and medicine. And we're going to discuss how horrible of a pick Dr. Rachel Levin is to be in this position.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Big Shot over here graduated from Harvard with a Bachelor's of Science and Tulane University with a Master's, sorry. But yeah, at the start of COVID, she had a lot of drama circulating around her about nursing homes and her pulling her own mother out of a nursing home or a private care institution because of the new policy she put in about how after elderly patients were being treated at hospitals, they would be sent back straight to the nursing homes, and they would basically become a cesspool for the COVID to grow and all that.
So back in, I believe it was May, a spokesman for the Department of Health told PennLive.com, which is a local news source in Pennsylvania, that Levin and her mother were notified that residents in her personal care facility had tested positive for the virus. This caused Levin to want to pull her mother out, put her into a private facility. I believe initially she was put up in a hotel or was in an apartment complex for a period of time and then put into a care facility.
So much better.
Yeah, so much better. But so
room service.
But so basically, a lot of the drama comes from Levin's own policy of forcing nursing homes and private care facilities to readmit individuals who tested positive for COVID, meaning that these individuals weren't sanctioned off and said you cannot be in this nursing home, essentially giving hospitals the right of way to say we're not going to use you or use our facilities, use our emergency rooms for you. You're going to go back to the nursing home and you're just going to live at the nursing home with everybody else with COVID.
Yeah, my grandmother is in a nursing home right now, and we were scared shitless when we found out that this policy was going to be put into action. Because when it was put into action, she didn't even get her own room. She was put into like a room where she possibly has COVID, or maybe, we're not sure. She's getting tested, but let's just put them in there.
So actually at this point in time when Levin was moving her mother out of a nursing home and into a separate facility, about 70%, I believe the exact number is about 68% of all deaths reported in Pennsylvania were in nursing homes because of her stringent and tight policies related to keeping sick people in nursing homes. Now, Levin isn't the only Department of Health secretary that has done this in different states. It's happened in New York, Michigan, California, and I believe two others. But it's kind of more pertinent since she is now in this position on a federal level to now instate this across the entire country if she has enough influence to do so.
Yeah.
Also under her orders, I believe that she also wasn't the only actor. I believe Wolf had a lot to do with it. Governor Wolf of Pennsylvania had a lot to do with it too. But her name was on it, so she's going to get the credit for it. Yeah. Because of her, a lot of most businesses were shut down. Schools were closed. Things were all shut down and closed based on these numbers of deaths and the numbers of cases. But 68% at the time where businesses were closed. There were protests in Harrisburg at this time.
She went to.
Which I attended. There's a couple pictures of me up on Facebook. Check out my Facebook. It's linked on the Facebook page. While this was all happening, protests, shutdowns, Levin, because of Levin's policies, we weren't allowed to have businesses open. We weren't allowed to have schools open. We weren't allowed, to have the mom and pop shop down the street. We weren't allowed to have the local pizza place open. We weren't allowed to have, a local coffee shop open. We were forced to, use big corporations such as Amazon, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks,
yes,
Giant, Acme. You can't. The local stores were closed, but these corporations were allowed to be open. On top of that, because related to that, 68% of the deaths in Pennsylvania at the time of all of this happening were in nursing homes.
Yes,
that means close to 30% of all deaths were outside of nursing homes, meaning. And this isn't we'll post all of the links for all of our research in the description as well. That means these individuals who are suffering, their businesses are being closed.
Right.
People aren't able to go to work. People aren't able to support themselves because of these tight, stupid, in my opinion, lockdowns. At the time, at least.
Yeah. I think Tom Wolfe and this woman are a bad combination together.
It does not help. It does not help that Tom Wolfe and his administration called the people protesting to open up their businesses, their small businesses, cowards and unpatriotic for protesting and possibly putting people's lives at danger. But he's out in the streets protesting with Black Lives Matter with a mask on.
Right.
But
you can only protest when it matters to you, right?
You can only protest when it matters to you. But you can't put people's lives at danger with COVID at BLM protests. But the protests to open up your business.
The virus is scared of the BLM protests. It doesn't even go near those.
Did you know that COVID only comes out at 10 o'clock at night? That's why bars got to close at 10. COVID's scared of 9 o'clock at night. Oh no, spooky.
Oh, no.
But yeah, Rachel Levin, we just had a lot of we just spewed a lot out. But Rachel Levin, horrible choice for assistant health secretary at the federal level. There are a lot of critics at the Pennsylvania state level, such as Senator Doug Mastriano, who is very, very outspoken. Senator Doug Mastriano has called for many times the impeachment of Governor Wolf and the resignation of Dr. Levin.
Yeah.
As well as State Representative Seth Grove. They both called Levin out for her handling of the virus, with some demanding her resignation, mostly Doug Mastriano. So Senator Mastriano was actually at some of the protests. He spoke at the protests, both of the ones that I were at. Really nice guy. I got to meet him when I actually was interning in Harrisburg with Wendy. But he is a very outspoken individual when it comes to the resignation of Rachel Levin, Dr. Rachel Levin. So even at the state level, she's not very liked.
No.
The people of Pennsylvania do not really like Rachel Levin, especially if you have a family member or a friend in a nursing home.
Yes, it was a very traumatic experience for us learning about what was happening in those nursing homes. I feel like most of PA's problems becoming an apocalyptic state has just come from her. It's just come from her. Like, my high school shutting down because I'm still in high school. I'm a senior in high school. My high school's shutting down. Most high schools shutting down. Most schools shutting down in my state were probably caused of her because she inflated the COVID deaths by so much. 68%. That's a huge margin.
Representative Wendy Thomas, she actually called for the separation of these numbers, saying nursing home deaths, we should put those in a separate category.
Right.
And we should have everyone else who's not in a nursing home and their death rates, their infection rates, have that as completely separate number, like a database, rather. And so we should base all of our policies on the other database of people who aren't in nursing homes and things like that. Yeah. While we can still be making policies and protections for those in nursing homes, while we can check their rates of infection and deaths and things like that.
Yeah.
And she was actually called out by her challenger for trying to skew COVID deaths and COVID information when she was trying to actually make it even more fair for business owners in Pennsylvania. Anne-Marie Mitchell, yeah, she ran against Representative Thomas and lost, by the way. Very cool, very cool. And just for a little bit of background, Representative Thomas is a Republican from the 178th District in Pennsylvania. Senator Doug Mastriano is also a Republican senator from Pennsylvania.
Yes. I feel like putting numbers together just because numbers look good is a very ignorant move on Levin's move.
Well, it's all politics.
Right.
It's all politics. And interning and also meeting a bunch of politicians from Harrisburg and being at these protests, it honestly feels like Levin and Wolf were playing politics. It didn't feel like they were trying their best to keep Pennsylvania safe.
Yeah.
It felt more like they were playing politics. They were trying their best to make the Republicans and Trump look bad.
I feel like we were getting somewhere a couple months ago. Like we were finally reaching the green zone, and then all of a sudden, no.
Well, most of the state was in yellow to green.
Yeah.
Because if you're not from Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf set up a 3-stage policy: red, yellow, and green. And red just meant like basically everything was shut down. Yellow meant some more things are open, but mask mandates. And green, I believe there was a mask mandate with most things open around 75% capacity, which he then changed to about, I think it was 50% capacity in green. He changed it because, again, as we're getting closer to green, he wanted to make it harder for these businesses and things like that, because I believe he truly was playing politics.
Yeah. He's got to appear as the good guy who plays it safe. But really, that's just... No, the people were so mad at him.
I mean, it depends on where you go, because what I heard while I was working with the local Bucks County Republican office, because they were the only ones who wanted me. The Democrats did not want me. I wonder why. I did apply. I did say, hey, do you want help? And they said no. When I was there,
probably set the place on fire.
But yeah, so while I was at the local Bucks County Republican office, they did like canvassing and things like that to try and get poll numbers. And when they would poll and say, how did you feel about the governor's job in Pennsylvania? In Bucks County, it was about, I believe, 70% approval rating in Bucks County. Yeah, Bucks County was getting hit the hardest. But when they asked the question, what is your approval of Tom Wolf? His approval was around 40% in Bucks County. I do not have a link for this. I really do apologize. We do try and do this, but this was only done by the county Republican office, and they did not give me a link to the numbers. I was only able to see the numbers and see like where they polled and things like that. And the numbers, I believe it was around a 2,000 to 2,500 sample size.
Right.
So. Yeah, like I said, I really wish I had the link to this, but I do not. But like, if you called him out by name, his approval rating was a lot lower. But if you just kind of hit it behind how do you feel the governor did, or no, I apologize. I have that flipped around. It's when you ask them how is Tom Wolf doing, his approval rating was around a 70%.
Right.
But when you asked them how the governor was doing, his approval rating was a lot lower, because people assume when they hear Tom Wolf, oh, he's the nice, he's like the soft-spoken,
he's the caregiver,
the stoic,
he's keeping us safe.
But when you actually ask them how do you think the governor's doing, they think, oh my god, the governor sucks. But it's called sampling bias and things like that. Like, it's not like people are stupid. It's the way they're asked the question, which confuses them. Because when people hear Tom Wolfe in Pennsylvania, some people think, oh, he's a good guy. He tries to come off as the good guy.
Oh, I've seen his commercials here and there. He's a good guy. He makes cabinets, right?
Yeah, he owns a business. He makes cabinets. But he
didn't he keep his business open or something like that?
Yes, that's actually another thing that I wanted to touch on. Tom Wolfe actually kept his business open during while everyone else was shut down, and a bunch of business owners were like, "What do you? Hold on, you can't do that." And so
for
then
some context, Greg is pointing his finger at me.
I'm pointing past you. Actually. But so he ended up closing it again, or closing it down, for fairness.
There's a lot of scandalous events happening around them.
So I mean, Tom Wolfe and his whole administration, that includes Rachel Levin, is very, very good at playing politics and hiding their true intentions.
Right.
Which, if you really want to get deep down into the nitty-gritty, and we're not going to cover this today, but I do want to cover this at some point, voter irregularities and things like that. Yeah. Pennsylvania, for fun fact, did not follow any of our laws that we originally set forward. We'll cover that in a later date, but we didn't follow our own laws when it came to voting and the mail-in voting. But let's not get too much into that. That just shows a little bit more of the credibility of
the term mail-in voting just screams chaos.
But yeah, that just shows the credibility here of the Wolfe administration in Pennsylvania. But I don't want to get too sidetracked, because we kind of did get a little sidetracked talking more about Wolfe and
same topic.
But yeah. But
corrupt politics. They think they're all high and mighty.
Yeah,
they need to be shut down.
But there were a lot of lawmakers calling for the resignation, like I said before, of Rachel Levin and Tom Wolfe and his impeachment.
Yeah.
On top of that, a lot of what some of the lawmakers, and I should say more Republican lawmakers than Democrat lawmakers, but a lot of Republican lawmakers in Pennsylvania at the local level were calling for a new bill that basically said, if you allow Dunkin' Donuts to be open, you can allow Starla to keep her coffee shop open.
Right.
If you keep...
That's the thing I was so confused about. Like, there's literally a Dunkin' Donuts that's open, and then like 2 feet, not 2 feet, but like a couple of yards across the street is a bunch of shops and small businesses that are just, no, you can't have those open. But Dunkin' Donuts, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
or Starbucks, you know.
And like, if you have a Giant down, like, you
right.
know, or if you're listening from like out at Pittsburgh area,
right.
Giant Eagle, or if you have an Acme or something like that in the area, ShopRite,
Wawa.
Sheetz, Wawa, they're allowed to be open, but you can't have, you know, a local convenience store open. Like, we have an Italian market up in yes. Newtown.
Yeah.
For a while that was closed, and they were able to kind of reopen a bit, I think. I'm not 100% sure if they're open or not now, but
Italian
they were.
or Amish?
The
both.
The La Stalla.
Oh, La Stalla, okay, yeah.
So there's the La Stalla restaurant and the La Stalla market.
Right.
And the Amish market. The Amish market's not open. We have an Amish market which is closed.
Yeah. Very good candy.
They have very good lemonade and food
pretzels.
in there, and pretzels. It's all homemade.
Homemade.
Well, I mean, it's made.
Amish made.
It's Amish made. But
jokes aside.
But yeah, so if you're able to have these big corporations open, we should allow smaller businesses to be open. And it was vetoed by Tom Wolfe and his administration because again, playing politics, that would give a win to the Republicans.
Right.
Because in Pennsylvania, the House and the Senate are both run by Republicans. The Supreme Court and the governor's office are both held by Democrats.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of controversy behind Dr. Levin, and a lot of bad controversy behind Dr. Levin.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not just one lawmaker calling for her resignation. It's a couple. It's lawmakers in Pennsylvania and the people of Pennsylvania. I would say a decent portion of people. They're not going to do polling of this. You're not going to find this on CNN. You're not going to find this on MSNBC. Mm-hmm. You're not going to find this on like YouGov or any of these like polling sites and things like that. Like because
they like to hide stuff. They like to
gallop.
Yeah, they like to dance around things as if it never even happened.
You're not going to see this. Most of the articles that we have are local, like the smaller things from Pennsylvania. We have one from the New York Post. We have a Fox News article, and some might say, "Oh, those are conservative articles." You're on a conservative podcast, by the way. They're conservative news articles. Well, you're not going to find a liberal news article smashing a liberal health secretary that was appointed by a liberal president.
Yeah, like...
and also before...
Trust nobody, not even yourself.
Yeah, trust nobody. And before anybody tries to come at me or Jacob here about, oh, you just don't like her because she's trans, that has nothing to
I
do...
could care less if it was a man or woman, transgender, or...
Because I know there are going to definitely
helicopter.
There are definitely going to be people who, if this video gets any comments, are going to be people claiming, oh, you don't like her because of how she identifies. How she identifies herself, yeah. If you take notice, we've never said anything bad about her personally.
Right.
We've only talked about her policies. We've talked about her actions. We haven't misgendered her.
No.
And that is because we could not care less the identity of the individual. We care about the actions of the individual. Identity does not define who we are.
Or nor does it justify her actions.
Nor does it justify their actions. Speaking in the third person now. Identity does not justify a person's actions. It's how they act. That is how
essentially.
Yes. So if Rachel Levin was, in my opinion, a good health secretary, this podcast would not have been about her. Right. But yeah, I wanted to cover that because I don't want to have to make a follow-up video on Facebook.
Apologizing on Twitter and all that.
Because people don't watch to this point in the podcast. How long are we? 20 minutes into the podcast, and they're like, you don't like trans people. And it's like, no, I never said that.
Should we put this as a disclaimer?
We could put this at the front of the video, too.
This would be a great disclaimer.
Let's have a disclaimer at the front of the video.
Okay. 2140. Got it.
Perfect. But yes, I think it's super important to note that so that we don't have people in our comment section giving us flack for something that we don't think. Because I got called racist.
For not even making a racist comment.
For not even talking about anything related to race or systematic racism or anything. But I guess I'm a racist for saying that I want peace. For more context, I made a Facebook post. I believe we talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit. Yeah.
I made a Facebook post saying, like, oh, I hope, like, I don't condone, I don't condone and I condemn thoroughly
the actions
of the individuals at the riots at the Capitol. However, I hope that from it we can move forward and come together and politicians kind of get off the backs of people. And that was interpreted as racist.
Right. Which is also politicians being scared again, which is a huge point for what we've been talking about this past 20-some minutes.
I don't believe that Tom Wolfe or Rachel Levin are fearful of Pennsylvania.
Probably not.
I do believe Tom Wolfe is probably tired because we haven't seen an increase. We haven't really seen much change since the second protest. After the second protest, even coming into like the second winter of COVID, we haven't really seen much of a change with the Wolfe administration and the different restrictions here in Pennsylvania. But I hope that what I'm saying continues. I hope that we don't see crazy restrictions and things like that. I actually hope we start seeing things lighten up with the vaccine. If we actually just looked at the Pennsylvania official health website, and it has a 78% recovery rate here in Pennsylvania. So it is being treated here in Pennsylvania. Yes, there are still 22%,
I think.
32%. I can do math. I'm a poli-sci major. 32% of people who aren't recovered at the moment, or are still recovering, or have passed away, sadly, from the virus. But we are seeing improvements because the 78% recovery rate was not the same a few months ago.
Yes.
But I think with that, unless you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think we got everything out of our heads.
All right, well, with that, I think we'll wrap this one up a little early. We didn't want to bombard you with another 44-minute episode.
Yeah.
But thank everyone for tuning in.
Yep. Thank you for watching or listening.
Check us out on Facebook at hashtag #DividedWeFall.
Not stand.
Mess up from the last episode. And if you're listening on Facebook, check us out on YouTube at #DividedWeFall.
Sick.
Thank you.
Bye.